Welcome back to Newman Tonight, folks. Times are definitely strange right now. I mean, a month ago I was a campus missionary, and now I'm a talk show host. So lots happening here at the Newman Center. We welcome Patrick Travers tonight. Some of you may know him, others may not, but we are here to get to know him. So thank you for joining us tonight, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Good to see y'all, party peeps.
Yeah, could you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Sure, with pleasure. Yeah, so, welcome to everybody that's here. It's a pleasure to share some time with y'all. Some things that you may know about me, may not. I'm sort of around a bit, but you'll know that I come from Illinois. I've got a Chicago Cubs shirt on tonight. I'm actually from a small town in central Illinois. It's interesting when people ask you where they're from, I'll say Illinois, and they'll say, from Chicago. I'm like, well, if I was from Chicago, I'd probably say I was from Chicago, but I am from downstate Illinois, so Peoria, from a good Catholic family. But one thing is interesting, working at a campus ministry like Penn and Drexel here, I actually purposefully avoided the campus ministry my 4 years in undergrad. Not something I'm especially proud of, but everybody has their own path in life. And it was actually when I went to grad school, also at the University of Illinois, that I met a FOCUS missionary, someone from Nebraska, of all places, good people in Nebraska. And slowly but surely, I sort of made my way back to the faith. And eventually, it was through a FOCUS connection, I went on a mission trip to Peru, where I ended up meeting the brothers, one of whom was Father Remy, on a mission trip. And fast forward a little bit, and I've been a brother for 13 years.
Okay, 13 years.
Yeah.
So how long have you been at our parish here?
So I arrived just about 3 years ago.
Okay.
In March.
Okay, great. So then, how did the brothers from Peru end up coming to Philadelphia?
It's a funny story. I still meet alumni, people that were here at the Newman Center ways back, and I'll tell them that I'm part of the brothers. Like, isn't that the Peruvian order or something like that? So, it's interesting. So we've been out. Most of our communities are in South America. I actually met the brothers in South America as well. But at that time, we had a community out in Denver, and we're good friends with the former Archbishop here, Archbishop Chaput, who had invited us to have a community out in Denver about 20 years ago. When he moved here to Philadelphia, had invited us as well to look for a place that we might be able to form a community. So it was about 6 years ago this summer that actually Michael and Father Carlos came out here to found this community here at the Newman Center. And I've been here about for half of those years.
Okay, great. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, but if you guys have any questions for Patrick regarding anything about the Newman Center here and ministries here, feel free to submit them in the comments section, and we will get to those later on tonight.
And a quick plug, we've got a parish survey out there, so we're in the spirit of getting feedback, so any comments and questions, really appreciate it.
Yeah, fill out that survey. I think it's tomorrow is the last day.
Tomorrow at midnight, cutting off two $50 gift cards from Amazon out there. Going to be raffling those babies off.
Nice.
We've already almost doubled the number of survey responses from last year, so it looks like that does the trick.
Making some progress.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, so fill those out tonight or tomorrow. You get the chance there. So I guess you've been here for 3 years. I guess, could you tell us a little bit about when you first came here, or what you know of when the brothers first came here?
Sure, yeah. Maybe a little bit of context. I know when I arrived here, it was helpful to understand what I was observing, because you see a lot of things, but trying to understand it all is not so easy. So the one interesting thing is that the Penn Newman community, the Drexel Newman community, and the Parish of St. Agatha St. James were 3 separate entities up until 10 years ago. And actually, even the Penn Newman Center, right next to the Parish of St. Agatha St. James, would have masses at the exact same time on Sunday, and there was very little overlap. And obviously that was not sustainable especially in the current state of the church as it's reorganizing. So the Archbishop, one of the first things he did was merge the 3 under the leadership of the pastor of the church at that time, who was a diocesan priest. He was here for about 4 years, and that was about when the brothers came in. So the brothers were here for about 3 years before I arrived, and from what I've spoken to Michael, Father Carlos, I think that was a time where they were, it's funny to hear, especially at the Drexel Newman side of things. I think Michael and Mike Chavanis, who was working at the time, came into a group of about 5 people were typically who'd show up to events and whatnot. So obviously they had a lot of work cut out for them, and if you see the Drexel Newman community to now, you can be very thankful for all the efforts that themselves or the Holy Spirit have been doing. But a lot of that was just sort of found, putting bases and, looking for leaders that could sort of take on a little bit of ownership, and that takes time. So yeah, we're, several years along in that process, and something similar, although probably the Penn Newman Center already had, a larger size group, it was still relatively small. So I think those first couple of years was just trying to like sort of, settle in, form some kind of a core group. And one thing that I would say, I was sort of working for the Newman Center for about a year until I assumed the current role as the Newman director. And I would say that about 2 years ago was kind of a critical moment where we had some turnover with some of the brothers that had been here before. And I think one of the things that they had done in those first couple of years was really sort of have a common vision. It was something that they grew into. And one of the things that I think going forward from that moment on, these last few years, we've really settled into maybe 2 different, really points of emphasis. And one would be getting out there, so outreach, and the other would be a sense of fostering unity amongst these 3 different entities, And I'll speak to the second one first, just because the first thing I noticed when I came to an after-mass social and coffee and donuts were eaten and whatnot, is that all the Penn people would be over in one corner, all the Drexel people would be over in one corner, and all the adults would be over in the other corner. So that's something that, is quite understandable. It's something that naturally tends to happen. But we really feel that we've got, a unique opportunity here with so much diversity. We really want to embrace that diversity. But, it's the type of thing that you need to foster a sense of identity coming together and things like that. And on the other hand, this sense of outreach, I would say we had this consultant, a guy that you might have heard us mention, a named Raul. He's kind of like a Newman guru, goes around the country giving advice to people like us. So one thing he had really helped the brothers sort of, in forming that vision, he helped us realize, and you'll see, around the Newman Center, these banners: encounter, grow, serve. So those kind of are 3 stages, you could say, that we try to like focus on in helping people grow in their Christian life, and it all starts with an encounter with God. You got to be able to grow in your Christian life and your faith. Hopefully you're going to discover that vocation to servant leadership. But one thing he helped us realize is that most places like us end up putting about 90% of your resources all in this small group of leaders that we had kind of formed by that point. And he's like, look, Patrick, if you guys really want to be able to grow, you got to recognize there's 10,000 Catholics out there between Penn and Drexel's campus. You can be content with the people that are coming to you. And that's kind of what we recognize is, we were doing all we could just to attend to the people that were coming to us, but we were also aware of all these other people that are out there. And for these last 2 years, we've put a lot of emphasis on reaching out, and it's the type of thing that, it's never going to be a finished product because there's still so many people out there to reach.
Yeah. So I guess what have you guys kind of implemented these past couple years to really help these outreach efforts?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, one thing would be some of the fine people in this room. I would say it just happened to coincide. There was kind of a critical period in that sort of time frame, and one of the things that we realized is that we needed help. And it just so happened that Focus had been a friend of ours from out in the community out in Denver, and these mission trips that we had this sort of working relationship, and the partnership arose. We were able to make it work and really bring in InFocus. For myself, for the brothers, it's just been a game changer. And to double, more than double the size of our ministry staff allowed for us just to be able to go out beyond the Newman Center confines and reach out to people. And we know that that's going to take time, and I mean, in a certain sense, you can see some of the results. The first year, we more than doubled the number of people in our small group Bible studies. And really for us, that's always kind of been the core. That if we really feel if we want to be a welcoming parish, so we put a lot of emphasis on Sunday ministry, meeting and greeting, after mass socials, and that's great. But in order for a person to really connect, and be able to take ownership in a ministry, really feel like having a group of friends that you can journey together with in the Christian life is going to be able to help that prosper a lot more. So having the Focus missionaries here to lead Bible studies, to mentor in the one-on-ones, just has multiplied, our ability to reach out to people and minister to them. So I would say that would be probably one of the most significant changes. And I do think that, speaking to that other point about the unity, one of the things I would say focusing on Sunday has has been an intentional thing. It was only 2 years ago that we started having Jimmy John's sandwiches, which, speaking to the surveys, a lot of opinions here and there. Yeah. Hearing about the Jimmy John's sandwiches,
good or bad,
socials.
Good or bad,
a little hit or miss.
Yeah, okay.
We're taking it to heart, Yeah. Maybe we'll have some Chicago style deep dish pizza.
Okay, I think
we're gonna need to find some funders for that, but no. But for us, I think that's one of the things we really recognize is, hey, look, we have 730 people come in to every Sunday to the 4 masses. And, I think it just kind of hit us all at once where it was, yeah, look, we've got to get out on campus, but we also got to start with the people that are already here. And just having like a person there to show a smiling face, a helping hand, when somebody comes in. A lot of people are timid. We know it's not easy to come across campus, and by yourself, especially into a place where you don't know anybody, as people are leaving behind homes, and whatnot to come to this church. So that's a big thing. And then, offering places like the luncheon or the donut, coffee and donuts and things like that. And that's only going to grow. We want to make that more and more important. But it is the type of thing that it just doesn't happen naturally. People will tend to sit at a table with people they already know. So it really takes a lot of effort, continual effort to continue to foster bridge building, help people to get to know each other. As soon as that happens, usually the walls fall down. I've had a 75-year-old grizzly old guy, and like young people, freshmen, guys in college, that obviously they feel super intimidated, both sides, and they won't talk to each other. But if I'm able to sit down with all 3 of them at a table, they'll end up having a conversation that's really great. So
yeah, no, that's great. So most of our viewers are Drexel students. So speaking of kind of going back to speaking of like unity and kind of what we have going on at the Newman Center here, since it is a combined Newman Center, in what ways, I guess, moving forward, do you see that the best ways for the Drexel students to kind of help with that unity?
Yeah, that's also, thank you, great question. Well, and I think one of the things that the brothers and the Focus missionaries are aware of is that, especially these 3 entities are all at different places and each needs different things. So, the Penn group of people, I almost feel like a few years ago was at the place that the Drexel group of people is now. And one thing you can observe is that the Drexel Newman nights, you get a consistent, really great, solid group of 40 people. And that same group of people is going to come on retreat. That same group of people, is going to go everywhere together. And there's a lot of camaraderie and sense of identity. When I came here 3 years ago, the Penn group was kind of like that. But one of the challenges with that is that you're either in or you're out, and we get that in the surveys as well. It's not always so easy to get feedback from people that are on the fringe, but when you do kind of lend an ear, you hear it's not so easy to break through that barrier. If you're not already part of the in group, then it's not so easy. So I would say that, on the Penn side, we've learned the last couple of years some of the ways that maybe we can diversify and offer ways for people to get connected without having to feel so much pressure that you've got to be, sort of all into this one group. So of the examples that you could look at, definitely the international and sort of intercultural ministry has been a really, really big blessing. We've already started, I think, to sow some seeds there. There's a particularly cool group of Indian Catholics that we've started to form. There's also a lot of students from Nigeria and Africa that we really would like to continue to find ways to invite them in. The service, I think, is another way that Penn has worked really well. There's people that kind of have found a niche within the service team, and they might not get overly involved with the Newman dinner and everything else. And obviously the small group Bible studies, those have a way. For example, at Penn, there are groups of, the football team, this fraternity, that other way, that allow for people to have a way to really prosper and thrive in their Christian life without necessarily having to be all in. And that has its own challenges too, because there's obviously a really big blessing in being able to have a sense of cohesive identity that you don't want to lose as time goes on.
Yeah, there's definitely a solid, consistent group here at Drexel in the Newman community. just from personal observation at
Right.
Sunday things after Mass. I'd say you and the brothers for sure are some of the you seem to know everybody's name. You're able to talk to everybody. What's your secret on being able to go out there and just meet people?
It's a great question. I actually have a chip here, like a supercomputer, and then that's actually I'm robot in hand, so that allows me to keep a registry. I just kind of open up these glasses and I'm able to. Okay, that. No, I don't know. I think that we love what we do. You know, we're out there every day. It's a huge blessing to be here, and the grace of God. You know, what else can you say?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, it's great seeing brothers do a great job of that. Folks, missionaries, we try our best, but yeah, to really just kind of break down those walls and find that discomfort of saying hello to the people in line and just getting to know their name.
Well, and as you look at the questions there, I'll back to your other question, I would just say, look, the ministry, you know, it always has been and it always will be the students. We need you guys. You guys are, you know, the front lines. People are going to come to Newman events because it's a Drexel Newman student that's invited them. So, you know, I would say one of the things that we would like more and more is to have more. You don't have to be on the Drexel, you know, student leadership team to be a leader and a missionary here on campus. We need everybody. Just you know, invite people in, find ways to kind of continue to build this thing up. Or maybe it's, you know, having Drexel students that kind of get to know the Penn students or some of these adults and things like that. All of those things really help.
Yeah, definitely. All right, got some questions in from the viewers. And so we'll go with the first question of what's the next phase in this building development here? The viewer, they heard we might get a park. Can you say anything on that?
We can, yeah. Well, everything is kind of up, you know, a little bit up in the air because of the coronavirus and whatnot. But yes, we have finished the first 2 phases of our redevelopment. We're very, very happy about that. The second being where we're sitting right now in this new beautiful Newman Center. The first was the lower part of the church and whatnot. The third and final phase that will be the transition, the parking lot, which will present new challenges on parking. We're working through that as well. But is going to be transformed into a park. So that had been set to go to begin construction early summer, late May, early June. That's still up in the air a little bit, but yeah, and for all purposes, by the end of next fall, we will have a clearly functioning park. We do actually have to do fundraising for that. We were able to have sizable contributions from the Archdiocese from the sale of the old property to fund the first 2 phases of renovation. But anybody has an uncle that would like to support us, please feel free to reach out. We need all the support we can. There's bricks available. You can have
get your name on there,
right? Right in front of a Mary statue. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be great.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Get some nice green in the city. You know, get a little grass in there. It's gonna be wonderful. Another question. So where do you see Newman in 5 years and 10 years? What's the kind of trajectory we're looking at here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I've, you know, and with the brothers that we've thought about that enough, but I would say, yeah, I mean, from like one of the interesting things with the growth we were talking about earlier with the small groups, clearly, you know, that's kind of like, you know, it isn't going to multiply by 2 every year. And this year, it went from about 100 to 200 in the first year of Focus being here. This year, it's grown about another 50. So, you know, it's grown kind of in a small way, you know, every year, and it hasn't grown significantly since Focus has been here. So we expect that those things will continue to grow. We obviously want to continue to reach out and yeah, I mean, as you know, the small groups grow, we want to have more student leaders that are able to reach out to their friends and start Bible studies and things like that. And I would, yeah, really hope that we're not going to vary from this vision of unity, from this vision of wanting to continue to reach out, continue to build from within. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, that is about all we have time for questions tonight. So thank you for joining us, Patrick. Appreciate it. You have any final closing comments for the viewers?
PD. Appreciate that. Believe that.
I never heard that one.